Good morning. Welcome to the forecast discussion, premium and public, for January 22nd, 2015. Almost had a brain fart there. Okay, so we have a heck of a storm developing here, and what I decided to do is combine the two discussions because this is a serious situation that we're going to be dealing with, and I want everyone to understand what we're dealing with here. This storm, which is rapidly organizing, which you can see very clearly on the water vapor satellite picture, is showing some significant signs for convection. I'm watching this area right here, okay? Now what we have here is ahead of it, we have plenty of moisture being pulled up ahead. We're starting to get interaction with the subtropical jet stream, moisture being pulled northward. We have our polar disturbance right here. This is what pulls this storm a little bit further north, this little hook right here. Okay, so this storm's getting hooked up with this polar disturbance, okay, not a full phase, but just enough to pull it a little bit further north. And as the upper level low is intensifying, it's trapping the storm initially tomorrow afternoon, slowing it down just a little bit. And this also leads to enhanced lifting with this storm and an expansion of the precipitation shield. So when we take a look at the latest radar here, you can see that the back edges, the common head of this storm starting to develop. Notice the convective nature of this precipitation shield. We got steady, heavy precipitation out on front. This is all going to be snow. And then on the back end here, we have this convective precipitation. So what are we seeing on the model guidance? Well, take a look at 850 millibar temperatures. This is really interesting. So you have this storm developing here, and it's approaching, and you're seeing that these temperatures are pretty chilly. So we have a rather convective environment going into this afternoon. Now watch during the portion of the storm, you see these little green blotches, this little warmer air. That's not going to change to rain. I think what you're going to have is little small areas of sleep pockets, but you see these little blotches here of colder temperatures. So what is the model really trying to say here? It's saying that we have intense rising and sinking air. When the air sinks, it warms a little bit. But notice it's not widespread warmth. It's little pockets. It's not strong warm air transport. It's the mesoscale nature of rapid rising and sinking air. So like, for example, when you're outside of one of these intense bands, the snow gets a lot lighter, you get a little bit mixing of sleet from time to time, and then you go pure snow and it's heavy in these bands. So what's happening here? You're having rapid rising and sinking air in a very small area. Now, pinpointing exactly who gets nailed with this rising air and sinking air is nearly impossible. So, for example, at 1 a.m. on Sunday, you have what looks like to be a warmer pocket and then a colder pocket. Well, in this guidance, not in all of them, but what it's basically saying is that you're going to have rapidly rising air and sinking air. And so in this storm, you're going to have pockets of intense snow and then light snow. Someone is going to get pounded on this and someone's going to miss out. So there's a high potential here for busting of this storm in some locations. It's just the nature of the storm. But the reason why I think the most of this is going to be snow is because look at the environment at 925 millibars throughout this entire storm event. It stays below freezing for the entire region. So what this tells me here is that we're not dealing with an environment of rapid warming via warm air transport, but instead what we're seeing is the mesoscale nature of rising and sinking air. Another important component with this storm is going to be the 850 millibar jet streak. Now take a look at this. This low-level jet is incredibly impressive right here on Saturday evening, tomorrow evening. That is 85 knots. That is incredibly impressive. And what this tells me is that you're going to have a tremendous amount of moisture being transported into the region, and you're also going to have a tremendous amount of lift. When you see a low-level jet like this in a storm, expect a stream of very heavy snow to develop along and just to the west of it. So basically cutting through Long Island, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and back towards Washington, D.C. in intense bands of heavy snow. So when I'm taking a look at all these factors, I'm taking a look at the fact, and let me pull up 500 millibars here and show you very important feature with this storm. Let me see here, where is it? Probably should have pulled it up beforehand, right? Well, that would have been smart, but I got a better idea. We're going to go to the regular NAM model guidance, and I'll show you. Better yet, we'll use the GFS guidance, because the European guidance, of course, didn't come out. So that just led to a lot of hysteria this morning. So here is one very interesting aspect with this storm. You see how it kind of gets pulled back here? What's happening here is that the upper level low is trapping the low. This process also leads to not only intense lifting, but a slowing down of the storm and usually a very intense focus of heavy precipitation right along the coast. So that's another factor that we're watching very carefully. So when we put all of this together, here's the basic idea of this forecast. First of all, if you're along the coast, be very prepared for major coastal flooding. This is going to be a storm surge of easily 1 to 3 feet, some locations over 4 feet on top of high tide, which is already enhanced because of a full moon. So if you live along the coast, prepare for major flash flooding. Okay. Obviously, winds are going to be very strong, 30 to 50 miles per hour, sustained gusts over 50 miles per hour, just a very nasty situation. Now, what I did with the forecast here is that I essentially pushed everything a little bit further north, considering the state of the storm right now. And what I have here, again, remember, high volatility storm. So the ranges are going to be a bit broad due to this. So far northern interior, this storm is not for you. Basically 1 to 4 inches of snow, not a big deal. As you head a little bit further south, 4 to 8 inches of snow. But understand that 4 to 8 inches of snow is going to be a heck of a gradient. Don't be surprised if Hartford gets, let's say north of Hartford gets 4 inches, Hartford itself gets 8 inches, and that remains a theme all the way down south, while New Haven, that's into my 6 to 10 inch range. Now again, there's going to be areas of strong lifting and sinking, so don't be surprised if one area gets 6 inches and then the town over gets 10 inches. It's going to be that type of storm here that we're going to be dealing with. The mesoscale banding, though, will not be as pervasive as what we're going to see further south. So I expanded the 6 to 10 inch area to cover periods of snow and cover the idea of this storm being larger, which it clearly is starting to show up being on the latest radar. Then we get into the real tricky aspect of this forecast, which is from southeast Pennsylvania through the New York City metro, looking at 10 to 15 inches. There is a high threat with the mesoscale banding of pushing to 2 feet in some locations here with this storm. It's going to be very hit and miss. Again, one location could end up with 20 inches, another area can end up with 10, and it's within a small area, a block radius. In Manhattan, you could end up with 15 inches, the Bronx 10 inches, Staten Island 20 inches. That type of environment is going to be a very tricky storm, and depending on where these little bands of intense snowfall set up. And then as you head further south towards the Jersey Shore, towards Delaware, Maryland, I'm going with 15 to 20 inches with locally higher amounts. 2 feet may be too low in some instances, especially as you head towards Washington, D.C. I stayed away from the significant mixing idea. I think you'll see some sleet from time to time, but I think the lifting is going to be so intense that where the heavy snow bands set up, it's going to be all snow. And then you're going to get that mixing of snow and sleet in between those bands. So that's pretty much where we are right now. We're going to watch this storm and see how it evolves, have live updates. Premium members, live coverage will begin this evening and continue on. I'll need some breaks from time to time, but I'll be here. Alright, so this storm looks like a major player here, so please be prepared and get ready. We'll have live updates throughout the day on this dangerous situation.